Hello, good morning, and welcome to the Sunday, 2nd of November edition of Proud Malcontent. Yeah, yeah. Technical issues again. Just about to go on air, and a second monitor went blank. There's a dodgy power connector, which I've tried to fix, but without any success. Anyway, here I am. I'm Pete Bell, and I am a proud malcontent. And what we're going to be doing today, well, obviously it's Sunday, so later on we'll have Stephen Duncan with us, who's going to be looking at the claim that yes is underreported. And he'll be, excuse me, I've got to silence my phone. He'll be crunching the numbers on that and coming to some startling conclusions, I've no doubt. For myself, what I'm going to be doing is taking a look at three items from the Sunday National. That seems to be kind of how the Sunday morning commentary segment of the show has evolved. I can't say it was planned this way, but that's how it seems to have evolved. So, in an attempt to inject a bit of organisation into it to make it look as if it's actually planned, I have decided to pick three items each Sunday, and it's supposed to be. The idea is that it will be one news item and one columnist and one item from the community or letters page. That's the theory, and we break from the theory right away on the very first day, because the first item is a truly wonderful, excellent, superb column by Andrew Tickle, who writes this truly excoriating piece, excoriating on both the royal family and the media's coverage of the royal family. It is wonderful. I like Andrew Tickle's writing because not only does he explain legal issues, or is not really dealing with a legal issue in this occasion, but he has a wonderful way with language, and he just writes beautifully. And I'm just going to read one paragraph from this because we want to leave some time. One paragraph. These public servants, he's talking about the palace media operatives, the palace workers, the monarchy's PR department. These public servants seem to regard bamboozling the public as part of their job description, and the media seems only too delighted to play its court role, content to be lied to, content to dig up the gossip, and disinclined to point out how cynical, self-serving, and dishonest this PR routine really is. And Andrew's conclusion from all this, he's looking at why the King Charles, the English king, why he has stripped Mr. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the former Prince Edward, why he has stripped him of the titles. Obviously, it could be because the man's an arse. Yeah, there's that. But Andrew, being as cynical as myself, sees another reason for it. It's to help basically to help the monarchy, help the firm, the royal family, maintain its celebrity status, because the whole point of celebrity, Andrew explains, is that there's a feeling of intimacy You feel you feel as if you know that you have some connection with celebrities. That's why they're celebrities, because the public feels some sort of connection with them. And the monarchy, the royal family, was in danger of losing that connection. That I personally think it's too late. You know, that's gone, and it ain't coming back. Uh, so this is the latest attempt to preserve that connection, to just distance himself from Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and all uh, his doings. So excellent column, Andrew Tickle. Read it. It's superb. It'll satisfy you if you're not one for the monarchy and you're not one for the media. You'll find it very satisfying. And also Ruth Wishart. So I picked the Andrew Tickle one because it covers both columnist and news, because that's pretty topical. So that's my excuse for doing that one. And a second columnist, always one of my favourites, Ruth Wishart, who just has this very down to earth approach, very very down to earth, toothy. Toothy is the word. It's a very toothy way of expressing herself. And she's this week she's going on about political parties and politicians in general, and saying all the things that I would have said, and I suspect most of you would have said. She hasn't got much time for them. She was having a go at your parties, having a go at the SNP, having a wee go at Alapa as well. She's she's at them all. Like the Scottish Greens, Green Machine Zach Polanski is also selling a left-wing prospectus to the English electors, and thus far has proved an attractive newcomer. Whether he too has staying power, I know not, but his numbers thus far are growing at a rate which must worry the English Lib Dems. Though I'm not so sure how many voters know what eco-populism means in practice. The Scottish Greens are no longer attached to them, but are also making left-wing noises, which will probably deliver them a lot of less votes. They are also, of course, dyed-in-the-wool fans of trans rights, which will bring them one section of the vote, but may well turn off another. The fact remains that in Scotland there are now myriad choices, though I would caution against plighting your troth against any candidate whose chances of election are slimmer than my winning Strictly Glitter Ball. That's Ruth winning Strictly Glitter Ball. I don't know what my chances are of winning it personally, because I don't know what it is. I haven't a clue. But Ruth expresses the kind of cynicism about politics and politicians, which I think we're all feeling at the moment, and not without cause. Not without cause. I mean, because they have just let us down. Read Ruth's column, and you will be nodding your head in agreement all the way through, I can assure you. And the third and final piece before before we're joined by Stephen Duncan is a letter, and it's from the very excellent James Murphy. Now, those of you who read the letters columns, the letters page in the Sunday National, or in the National Daily as well, you will know that Richard Murphy is a very eloquent and highly committed advocate of Scotland restoring independence. He is, as the name might suggest, of Irish ancestry, and his column, his letter, I should say, although it reads like a column, it reads like a columnist. He is an excellent writer, and I don't mean that to be condescending at all. He just is. I know good writing when I read it. And in this article, he's talking about how he learned about independence and about how independence is secured from the stories that he heard when he was visiting relatives in Ireland as a pre-teen and an early teenager. It's and the whole thing, definitely worthy of a read. You will find in there pieces that you will want to quote. He is he is eminently quotable, which is why I have often quoted him. And I'm just picking out a paragraph here as I scroll through. The SNP leadership acts as if London has the final word on Scotland's right to self-determination. That is false. The International Court of Justice settled this question in Advisory Opinion on Kosovo in 2010. Paragraph 84 of that ruling is explicit. General international law contains no prohibition on declarations of independence. In plain terms, no state requires permission to declare itself independent. Recognition may follow or not, but legality does not depend on London's consent. Uh, Well said, well said, James, and well said for all of it. Congratulations and thank you for your excellent exposition of how it talks about how Ireland secured its independence and how most, in fact, I suspect all nations which have restored their independence or gained independence have decolonized. They acted first. They did not go cap in hand asking the colonizer for permission to act. They acted first and then basically dared the colonizer, or administering power, as in UN speak, dared them to try and stop them. And that is the essence of Scottish UDI. That's what it's all about. It's about defying London. When Ian Grant of Independence Forum Scotland was writing a piece plugging the Independence Forum Scotland Autumn Convention, which is on Saturday coming, he said that I would be, because I've been invited to give a presentation on Scottish UDI and the Manifesto for Independence. He spoke of this kicking in, UDI kicking in, if London doesn't negotiate. Well, he's wrong. Sorry, Ian, but you're wrong. I have a lot of respect for Ian Grant. He does terrific work with IFS. But he's wrong on that. The whole point of Scottish UDI is that it cuts Westminster out of the process altogether. While we're on the subject, and not at all coincidentally, I would recommend that you watch. There's a YouTube channel, a link to which will be posted when this goes on my Substack blog. I recommend that you tune in to the IFS convention on Saturday. I recommend especially that you tune into the afternoon session, which is on routes to independence. Although I warn you, you will hear only one route to independence, and that's Scottish UDI. There simply isn't another one. I wrote an article yesterday, I think, about how shocking it is that not one of the supposed nominally pro-independence parties is attending this conference officially. They're not giving any presentation of their route to independence, their strategy for restoring independence, which may seem surprising until you realise that they don't have any strategy for restoring independence. They have a strategy, and this is a point that Ruth Wishart makes very well in her column. They have a strategy for gaining seats and all the rewards that go with electoral success and election and elected office, the rewards that go with that. So that's Saturday afternoon, routes to independence. That's when I'll be trying, in the space of 10 minutes, I'll be trying to explain the whole Scottish UDI process. Then there'll be a 10-minute Q&A. I would be gratified if you would tune into that. And now, having already spoken for rather longer than I meant to, it's time for us to be joined by Stephen Duncan. This is the good bit of the show now, right? Hi, Stephen.
Hello, Peter.
So, what are you saying to it? What are you saying to it?
Well, I'm going to look at this question of whether or not yes is being underreported in the opinion polls that are published periodically. Looking at the suggestion that they've been underreported, not intentionally, but due to some of the adjustments that are made, specifically this question of waiting to past voting behaviour, specifically on waiting by recalled voting from the Scottish independence referendum, which is 11 years ago now, as we know, and how that might be distorting the picture, maybe distorting the picture of the true position.
We've got to wait for your conclusions. We've got to wait till the end to
Yes.
get your conclusions on this. Sounds intriguing, and as is now my habit and practice, I haven't looked at the slides, so that I'm coming to them as an audience member. So that hopefully that means that I will come up with the kind of questions that the audience want to ask. However, if anybody does want to ask questions, there's the comments, or you can email me, but I can't promise to read the emails. I've got enough things to click on here. Already have one comment in from my good pal Gordon Henderson, who says succinctly, as he usually does, confrontation, no collaboration. No, that's the idea. I suspect that's a response to James Murphy's letter. Okay then, Stephen, let's get over to your presentation.
Okay. We'll start at the beginning as usual. So the question really is yes being underreported by some of the adjustments that are made to opinion polls? We were talking about waiting here. So what I've got here in this slide is, an example, hypothetical example of how it works. Three tables there, and we're looking at the oversampling, the undersampling of yes and no Scottish independence referendum voters in a particular sample that's been drawn and reported on. So if we look at this, the topmost table, the last two columns where we've got the percentage of independence referendum support, in the sample. 61.25% in this hypothetical example say that they voted yes in 2014. 38.75% said that they voted no. So it is a sample of 800 people. So that compares to what we actually know happened in the population that voted 11 years ago, of 44.7% in favour of independence, 55.3% against independence. So right away you can see that there's a misrepresentation there of the proportions that voted yes, no in the referendum proper itself. So what a lot of opinion polls did, most opinion pollsters do, is make an adjustment to make the sample reflect that referendum from 2014. So what they do is they take that 61.25% and use that as a divisor for 44.7% for the to create a yes weight. So divide 44.7 by 61.25, you get 0.71. And you can see that on the rightmost middle table, that's the weight for yes. And the weight for no is the opposite of that. You take 55.3%, divide it by 38.75% in the sample, and you get a weight of 1.39. So what these weights are used for is to multiply the respective yes and no referendum support by that. So each yes supporter would normally have a weighting of 1, will have a weight of 0.71, and each no supporter will have a weight of 1.39 rather than 1. So that their weights are the yes weight is down weighted, the yes support is down weighted, and the no support is upgraded, as it were. And you can see how I've done that. So you just take the 490 that voted yes in the top table in total, multiply that by 0.71, you get a total of 358, so that number reduces. And for the no total, you multiply 310 in the top table for no by 1.39, and you get 442 for the no voters. So what you can see comparing the top table to the bottom table is that for the 800 in this hypothetical example, instead of being 490 yes, 310 no, you've got 358 yes, 442 no. So we've actually flipped the profile, as it were, to match what happened in the Scottish independence referendum. So that 358 out of 800 is now 44.7% of the total. 442 out of 800 is 55.3% out of the total. So we've changed the weighting altogether. What we haven't done is change the current sort of voting intention, the current yes/no sentiment. That remains at roughly 92% yes and 8% no for those people, or 92% of those people who voted yes in the referendum still intend to vote yes, whereas 84% of those who voted no in the referendum still are supportive of no. The overall impact of that is to reduce the raw results of 62.5% in favour of yes, 37.5% in favour of no, to a weighted result of roughly 50-50. So instead of being 500 in favour of yes and 300 in favour of no, that now becomes 400 in each sort of yes and no category. Any questions on that, Peter?
Yeah, do all the polling companies weight results in exactly the same way? Or are there different ways of doing it? Are you coming to that?
Just coming to that on the next slide.
Right. Okay.
And there it is. So who applies weighting really is what you're asking, and hopefully this provides the answer. So I've got the main pollsters there, the 7 main pollsters that have, since 2014, have conducted surveys on the question, but 90% of the 300 odd surveys, these 7 pollsters, Ipsos, Norstat, Survation, Find Out Now, Savanta, Renfield, and Woolton and YouGov have conducted the bulk of these surveys, and they all match to their own particular combination of population dimensions, as it were, and I've highlighted these in yellow in this table. And the green ticks indicate which dimensions each polling firm uses to match to the population proportions. So the characteristics break into 2 different kinds: demographics and what I've called recollection variables. The demographics are the standard variables like age, sex, work sector, social grade, country of birth, housing tenure, etc. The recollection, what I'm calling recollection variables, are those that are really relate to how people recall voting in past democratic events like British elections, Scottish elections, and referendums. I would say that they are subject to review and to change, and we can see from that table there that for Ipsos, they recently changed their weighting approach, the variables they use. They expanded them in the middle of this year in July, so that they don't stay static. The one thing to say about the recollection variables is that, and just to elaborate a little bit on this false idea of false recall, that refers to the human frailty, like memory failure, and foible, those that might wish for whatever reason to hide their actual voting pattern, what they actually did in an election or in a referendum. Yes, please.
Can I just ask, Stephen, are you aware of any research on the impact of the false recall? But does anybody research that to see just what sort of impact it's having?
Well, it hasn't. I haven't seen anything published on that, but I've got something in subsequent slides that I've done myself, and hopefully that'll show the kind of impact that it has. It doesn't mean, I should say, doesn't mean to say that it's incorrect. It's not incorrect. It's just certainly not on the demographic variables, because they are hard and fast categories like age. People tend not to tend to know how old they are, and there's no reason particularly to hide that. And similarly with sex and social grade, housing tenure, where you're living, region, stuff like that. That's not really subject to vagaries of person's memory. However, when it comes to voting patterns, people might be a little bit more coy about that, because particularly, let's say, the Scottish referendum 11 years ago, perhaps people are a little bit embarrassed that maybe those that voted no and they claim to vote yes because well, for lots of reasons, you know what they would be.
No, I know exactly what you mean, because it's almost impossible now to find anybody who admits that they voted for Margaret Thatcher. Nobody voted for her. Yeah. So I see what you mean about false recall and the kind of impact it can have.
Well, I would say that on before we're going forward, Ipsos, probably the oldest company, they don't weight by recollection variables at all. I spoke to the lady in charge, I think it's chief executive, or at least email transaction with her, in fact, and she said they don't weight by recollection variables at all. No past voting behaviour is taken into account by Ipsos. They weight by other variables. Find Out Now, they do something different again. They select their sample. They've got their own panel of individuals, and they select the samples such that they already match to the population, dimensions that they use. So it's like a pre-weighting. So there's no requirement to produce, weighted results. They come out weighted, no adjustments required. But they don't match. They don't match the Scottish independence referendum or the European referendum of 2016 either. The only past voting criterion they match to is the most recent British election, in this case, the one last year, 2024. Right. So what are the effects? That was the question you were asking a bit earlier. It's what everybody's really interested in. So I've looked at the last 3 surveys produced by the Norstat, Survation, YouGov, Savanta, and Ipsos, and these are the results in that colourful chart there, the bar chart. On the leftmost is the light blue and dark blue is Norstat. The light blue colour is the raw results before any adjustments are made, and you can see there's quite a difference between the light blue and the dark blue bars. So for Norstat, the first one is a reduction after weighting. This is all the weighting. It's not just any particular weighting. It's not just the recollection variable effect. This is the whole effect of all the weighting that's done. That reduces from 61% to 53% in the first instance. From the raw to the adjusted, 61 to 54%. In the second one, 56 to 50 in the third. Similar pattern for Survation, which is the green bars. Not quite so accentuated in the YouGov, which is the orange bars. And similarly with Savanta, it's pretty much similar adjustment to, that's the red bars, similar adjustment to that experienced by YouGov. But look what happens with the yellow bars. They go the other way, and that's Ipsos. They show an increase in yes after they apply their weighting, and that weighting doesn't include, remember, any of these recollection variables. They show an increase, which is quite a bit of an eye-opener. And for Find Out Now, they're not here, not shown on this chart, because, as I said already, they don't adjust the results. They come in, the samples they select are already pre-weighted. The method they have for sampling their individuals forces them to match the population proportions in any event. And it's interesting, in fact, that one observation from that is that they are produced the most stable set of results. They're very rarely change. 14 polls, of which 10 have been 52%, a couple at 54%, and a couple more recently a little bit higher, but very, very stable, and they don't do the weighting. So any comments on that, Peter?
I think most people are going to be very surprised about the difference with Find Out Now. But what is the significance of that difference? Which one of these is right, which is wrong, or are they just? They're obviously getting different answers, so there must be something in there, but I'm not quite sure what.
Neither am I. I couldn't. That would be superb if we were able to answer that question. All we know is that it has quite a significant adjustment. It doesn't mean to say that if you took the past voting behaviour, didn't use that as weighting. It doesn't mean that you would. The results would stay at 61%, the raw results, because you're still going to be weighting by these other demographic, proportions. Because if you've oversampled females in your sample, you need to make that adjustment and bring them back into line with the population. That's still going to happen. Similarly with region, or similarly with age band. So that it's. I mean, it's difficult to say which particular pollsters got it right, but you can certainly see that they all make some significant adjustments when you apply the weighting. The question is, are they weighting to the correct criteria? My own feeling is that they should take out that the weighting to these past voting behaviour, because as time goes on, people's memory fail them, people die, new people come into the electorate, and people hide their past voting behaviour. They won't hide their where they live, what area in Scotland they inhabit. They won't hide their sex. They can't, and their age band, etc.
It does occur to me that one of the possibly the most important thing in this whole business here is that you've got to be comparing like with like. But if you take the polls over a period of time, because the recollection factor changes over time, then you won't be comparing like with like, and the suggested trends will be off. I'm posing that as a question.
No, I think it's just a distortion that's caused. I mean, yeah, people, yeah, maybe they'll answer the question one way one time around. They've when it's posed to them, and maybe answer a different way the next time, depending how they feel, or depending how their memory is. It's how well their memory is being maintained.
Yeah. A couple of comments in from Frances Carroll. She says that at 61, she's never been asked any poll, neither has anyone I know. Likewise, but there are 4 million voters in Scotland, so it's not really all that surprising if any particular individual hasn't been polled. How they pick the samples. This is Frances Carroll again. Thank you, Frances. How they pick the samples, maybe demographics may work, but also may not. Is there any bias? Who knows? Well, I like to think Stephen knows.
Well,
that's why we have him here.
I've got another presentation, maybe do it next week, about what what the techniques are that are involved in the whole process, not just weighting, but on the sample selection, what sample size it should be, how much confidence you have in the result, what the margin of error is, what the trade-offs are between the three of them, and a whole lot of other stuff as well. So maybe that'll be appropriate to do next week. We'll have a think about that during the week, but I probably can't really answer it right off now. It's quite detailed, but of course there will be. There's always biases, and it's just in opinion polls. But they have been around a long time. I mean, been around. I think the first time they were used, I don't know, 1830 in America. They started using them. In presidential pollings. I think that's the first time it was recorded. The statistics don't change. Probability theory doesn't change, and it's always been around. And I think that I've lost my train of thought there, but I think the polling is the people do their best to sort of take out the biases and to make it, scientifically based, as it were.
That's the point I was wanting to make. A lot of people that are dismissive of polls because they don't understand that they are scientific. That is mathematics, and mathematics describes the universe. So they are scientific, and it's a well-developed science, as you say. There's 100 years of practice behind it. Frances again rubbish in, rubbish out, black box. I know what you mean. I know what you mean, Francis. But perhaps, Francis, if you watch next week, next Sunday, Stephen will be able to address some of your questions.
But it is the only you know, the only thing we have, barring the biggest opinion poll.
As I often say, Stephen, it's the best information we have. And if you're planning a campaign or executing a campaign, you have to take the best information you have. And that's what the pollsters do. They provide us the best information they can. And as I've also pointed out often to people, they make their money from selling information to businesses. So if they were their reputation for doing it right, I can't say their reputation for accuracy, but their reputation for a decent, reliable methodology, that's their stock in trade. So the idea that just because some Tory is the chairman of a company, that there's going to be a unionist bias in there is complete nonsense. Because these companies are businesses, and as I say, their trust is their stock in trade. They've got to be trusted by businesses.
Yes. Okay, I agree with that. Let's move on, shall we? We'll maybe cover all that again next week.
Look forward to that, Stephen.
Okay. So finally, the conclusion. So I think we've I've decided that the method, the idea of waiting, or the method of waiting, does cause a reduction in the final yes report that's being reported. Doesn't mean to say it's wrong, but it does have that impact. We've seen that with the exception of Ipsos. But there's a reason for that, and it's because they don't use past voting behaviour as being their criterion to match to. There's a down weighting of the yes Scottish independence referendum voters, which forces a reduction in overall yes. The reason why it forces a reduction in overall yes, current yes, that is because 90% of 2014 yes voters remain in the yes bucket, and 85% of those that voted no still would vote no if it's a referendum tomorrow. So that means that if you downweight the numbers for yes, and it becomes 90% of a lower number and 85% of a higher number. So overall, you're going to adjust current yes down and current no up the way.
Yep. Well, even I kind of understand that. So one point I'd like to make is that none of this actually changes the underlying fact of the trend over the past 11 years, which has been pretty much flatline. That trend is the same regardless of how the polls are weighted, and that's undoubtedly, I think, the most useful, possibly the only useful thing about polls is to indicate trends.
Yes.
No single poll means very much, but it's the way they indicate trends over time.
Yes, I agree with that. And just going back to that, you're right. There's two things: there's level and there's trends. And the level is determined by, as we talk about biases. Francis Carroll mentioned bias earlier on. Every pollster has their own bias. It's methodological bias, though. It's not institutional bias. It's because they some of them use slightly different weighting criteria. Some of them use different filters. So, as to how they adjust for turnout for those people that like to vote. Some of them exclude different persons from from their sample, or based on age, or some other criterion, so that every pollster has a bias built into it, and it's a question of which one's got it right this time. But the trend should, if you're comparing, one pollster's output with the same pollster from last month or the month before that, you can build up a trend and get a picture of what's actually, or what the direction of travel is. There will always be biases based on methodology, but there are not biases based on institutional bias. No particular polling firm, as far as I'm aware, has got a bias against yes or against no, or for anything else for that matter. I think that's important to point out. When I mention bias, we're talking about methodological bias, not institutional bias.
Yes, that is an important distinction. It occurs to me that if each polling company, each pollster has their own built-in methodological bias, then is that somehow ironed out if you take a sort of average across all the pollsters? Their biases tend to cancel each other out?
They do. If you've got enough of them, yes. If you've got enough of them and they're roughly the same, if you're comparing one time period to another time period, and it's made up of roughly the same polling firms in each, and it's roughly the same amount, then you're going to be ironing out and take a sort of midway point, as it were, and you can look at the overall trend as well. The only thing you shouldn't do is compare, as I've said before, for example, a YouGov poll, single YouGov poll with a single Find Out Now poll, for example, because they've got different methodologies, and they're not like for like.
Yeah, my own. Well, I say my own. It's hardly that. The quick and easy method that I use for indicating trends is to take an average of the first 10, 12, 20 polls after the 2014 referendum and compare that with just the yes score, the average for the first 12 or 20, thereabouts. The first 12 polls after the 2014 referendum and the most recent 12 polls. I don't bother about picking out polling companies or anything. I reckon if you've got between 12 and 20, it's going to average out anyway. And I compare those two figures, and that shows a flat line. They're within margin of error, and I've had a lot of people say that that's not a valid comparison, but as far as I'm concerned, it has to be, because you're comparing like with like. You're comparing 20 polls with 20 polls.
No, fair enough.
It is valid.
It is. I believe it's valid because there's enough in each bucket, I think, to offset, to make the biases offset one another.
I think there's been a couple of occasions when I've used perhaps as few as 6 polls, but I then realised that wasn't enough. That it had to be I reckoned at least 12. Although I have no mathematical basis for saying that, but I reckon that 12 would be enough. Obviously, 24 would be better, but you've got to stop somewhere. And the whole idea was to make it something that, like, anybody who could use, even if they weren't particularly. Even if they were at my level of mathematical skill, anybody can do this. Anybody can average the first 20 polls and the most recent 20 polls. They've just taken the yes scores. Anybody can do that. So anybody can test it for themselves. The claim that that yes is flatline, they can test it for themselves in that manner. Without being a retired statistician like yourself. Right. Well, that's been great. I think we covered a fair bit of ground there, and I'm very much looking forward to next week, and I believe Frances Carroll is as well, when she'll get some answers to her questions. For the time being, Stephen, thank you. We'll see you next week.
Okay, right, bye.
Right. Bye. And that is fine, because that just leaves me time to cover one more item, which is why I always have one more item, just in case we're left with a bit of time. There's another comment has come in. I can't imagine the British state not interfering in polls or anything else. That's from somebody calling themselves Zuni. Well, the thing is, Zuni, there isn't any way for them to interfere. They really can't interfere. And the polling companies, it wouldn't be in their interest to allow any such interference anyway. I'm pretty sure they would like to interfere, but you're not going to. There's no point in interfering if you can't do it reliably. If you're just interfering for the sake of it, then this is wasted effort. You'd have to be interfering in a way that could reliably produce the outcome that you want, and they simply can't do that. The methodology won't allow for it, and the company's interest, the polling company's interests, won't allow for it. So back to my final item. Oh yes, I remember now. It's another item from the National, but this time from Saturday's edition. That'll be Saturday, the 1st of November, and it's from our old friend Robin McAlpine, who is presenting something from the think tank Commonweal. Excuse me. Something from the think tank Commonweal, and it's this graph. You can see this on the screens. I've never seen anything like this before, and it compares wealth extraction for the World Bank income regions compared to Scotland. Now, I'm going to read Robin's explanation of this, because it's probably a lot better than I could manage, and certainly not as long-winded. So Robin explains it thus. The graph is simple. The axis that runs from left to right indicates rising wealth per capita. The axis that runs up and down, the vertical axis, indicates whether a nation is an importer of wealth or an exporter of wealth. The green on this graph being wealth importers, the red wealth exporters. If you are interested, this is calculated by subtracting gross domestic product from gross national income, which tells you the difference between the wealth you generated and the wealth you retained. Commonweal mapped Scotland against a number of the main World Bank country categories. As you would expect, at the bottom of the pile and way on the left of the graph are the most indebted poor nations. They don't generate a lot of wealth, but are paying a lot of it in debt repayments to rich countries. On we go, moving further to the right, wealthier and higher up, gradually moving from net exporter to importer of wealth. We go past the least developed countries and the developing economies, the BRICS countries, and then various groupings of the developed West, such as the Eurozone and the European Union. Each gets richer, each keeps more of its wealth and then eventually starts taking the wealth of others. Scotland's position should shock you. We are almost exactly as wealthy as the Eurozone countries, but we are exporting wealth at twice the rate of even the most indebted poor countries. Robin says, can I get you to reflect on that? Scotland is rich like Europe, but leaks wealth much, much worse than sub-Saharan Africa. Look at that. That is truly shocking. that made me that I was lost for words when I saw this. I've never seen it represented in this way, and it just makes it so obvious what is happening to Scotland. That Scotland is being exploited. The Liberation Scotland team should take that graph with them when they go to the UN, because if anybody wants to deny that Scotland is an exploited colony, then that graph just shove that in their face, and that gives a lie to what they're claiming. That shows the extent to which Scotland is being exploited. Because so much of Scotland, our land, our industry, our businesses, so much of it has been sold off. So much of it is foreign owned. That all the wealth is being sucked out of our country, and of course, a lot of that wealth goes south of the border. It goes to London, basically the biggest single parasitical effect, and I don't mind using that term. The biggest single parasitical effect is London, England, the sucking the wealth out of Scotland. It's truly shocking. Just look at that chart. Look at the chart. Read Robin's explanation of what it means. And I'm pretty sure you'll be as shocked as I am. Okay, I'm going on about it, but no wonder. that is truly dreadful. It's so much worse when you see it. Graphics. One thing making the claim that Scotland's wealth is being extracted, that we're being our wealth is being expropriated. You make that claim in words. Yeah, it's just words. But when you see a visual representation like that, it really brings it home, and it's scary bad. It's scary bad. How can you possibly look at that and not say that Scotland's independence must be restored tomorrow? You can't possibly be complacent about it after seeing that. Right. Not that, not that I imagine any of you are complacent at all. Zuni says, great graph, thanks. You're correct, Zuni. And I hope everybody will go and have a look at that. Francis Carroll has given us lots and lots of emojis there. Thank you, Francis. That's time just about up for us. So there's just time left for me to mention yet again, and I know I'm going on about it, but I believe this is important. The two organizations which put on events that I believe are unmissable and that are most relevant are the SSRG, the Scottish Sovereignty Research Group, and Independence Forum Scotland. They do very, very valuable work. The Independence Forum Scotland Autumn Convention is on Saturday. It will be live streamed, and I will provide a link to that live stream, that YouTube channel, when I get this posted on my blog. Until then, and until Wednesday, when I'll be back, that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Bye.